Most people's lead magnets are just like that. They're like, how do I come up with the best thing to entertain and wow my audience? And at the end of the day, the person downloads the thing and they're like, great job, Frankie. Love that lead magnet, man. Love you, bro. And then they just walk away. Well, if you want me to help you, you've got to pay, or you've got to opt in, or you've got to do this, or you've got to do that. Like, there's always a string attached to say, I'm promising you something, but in order for me to actually deliver on that, you've got to jump through all these hoops in order to do that. All the clients that I have here, right? Who has been with us the longest, right? Who's kind of just like been around for years. They refer us, they love us, they've just been in our world for a long time. That's going to give us an indication about the style of the type of person that we're going after.
All right. Amazing, beautiful, attractive motherfuckers. We are back with another edition. I got a legend here, and I've actually been following Nicholas Kusmich here for a while. I think he's one of, if not the top Facebook ads guys in the world. Although I don't know if you can truly say like there's one person that's better than everyone else, but he's certainly on the names of people you would call the best at this. He's also got an awesome book called Give, and I really just think like some of his unique insights on how to do this business the right way are really just badass and going to be pretty life-changing. And so firstly, Nicholas, thanks for coming to party with us.
Frankly, I'm excited to have this conversation. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I kind of like that. So whatever we can do to help some people out, let's just do it.
Yeah, funny little story, by the way. I mentioned this a little bit off air, but just for those of you guys who don't know, when I got into the agency digital marketing, like kind of mentoring thing, it was, having done it 10 years myself at that point, I never actually planned to mentor anyone else. And I just had a lot of folks that were asking me, like, how are you doing your webinar stuff? And so I put together a little event in Toronto, and then somewhere on day 2 or 3, we found out you were putting an event down the street. And I was literally, people said, how do you get people into the webinar? I said, I just use Facebook ads and Nicholas Kusmich's perfect ad template. And then somebody's like, he's down the street. Why don't we go crash it? We never did crash the party, but that would have been
a great like story to tell if you could have pulled that off.
There's just 12 random strangers. But then we thought, it'd probably be a little awkward, especially if we're not welcome. I mean, we would have been cool, but
hey, if I knew you were part of the internet marketing crowd and we had some extra time, I think we could have probably had some fun with that.
So, brother, I wanted to start with really something that you've put out there. Like I said before, your free stuff is better than most people's paid stuff, and I know you haven't you've been kind of quiet on the download last little while, but you have some awesome stuff on creating lead magnets, and you created an acronym called SAGE. And yes. I've seen when people go and try and they create lead magnets and put something else out in the world and try and start building a list. They have to come up with 350-page ebooks, and they got to, spend 3 months or 3 weeks perfecting this perfect webinar. Yeah. And Sage is the perfect mix of actually being useful to the audience and easy for you to create. So I'd love for you just to elaborate on what that is, why you came up with it, and how like really anybody can do it.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for asking. So I think one of the things that people don't realize is the actual role of the lead magnet. Right. Some people think that the role of the lead magnet is to generate the lead. And I mean, obviously, there's some truth to that. Obviously, we want to use a lead magnet to generate a lead. Hence, it's called a lead magnet. But the real thing that I found, the real benefit of having a good lead magnet is that it's designed to build authority. It's designed to build credibility. And most importantly, it's designed to pre-frame the sale of the thing you want on the other end.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those things in place, that the lead magnet, and here's a great example of this is there was I was in Australia. We're thinking about moving there years and years and years ago, and there was a street performer, and they were great, and it was almost like stadium seating on where they were doing their performance, and everyone would gather and watch them do their thing, and you'd be watching them, you're like, oh my God, this guy's great. And at the end of the performance, he was so good that everyone was just like clapping their hands, like, amazing, great job, amazing, and whatever. And I love his Aussie personality. He basically like, don't clap, put money in the bucket. Like, like just put the money in the bucket. I don't want your claps. I want the money in the bucket. And we're like, oh yeah, okay. And he collected some money. But the point is, most people's lead magnets are just like that. We're like, they're like, how do I come up with the best thing to entertain and wow my audience? And at the end of the day, the person downloads the thing and they're like, great job, Frankie. Love that lead magnet, man. Love you, bro. And then they just walk away. And you're like, dude,
Or
that
even
wasn't the
worse, can I
point.
just say, like, they never even read it. Like, it's a 300
Or
monstrosity that ends up in hard drive purgatory.
well, that's a good point too. I mean, obviously, if it's too long, then people are never going to get it. And it's an interesting point that you bring that up. And I feel like we're going to go on a bunch of tangents, and that's okay. If you just reel me back in,
Yeah, let's go for it.
Reel me back in. One of the things that people don't realize about the lead magnet is that any interaction, that like any ad that you put out there, any funnel, quote unquote, that you put out there, not only is that funnel or that thing designed to get an outcome, like to create a transaction or whatever the thing is, but with every interaction you put out there, you're actually training your audience on how to work with you. Right. So, like, for example, if I were to hold a webinar and I tell people there are going to be no replays, and people come and the first thing they ask for is like, oh, I can't make the date and time, send me a replay. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, here's a replay. I am training my audience for two things. Number one, to not take me for my word. And if I say there's going to be no replays, I don't really mean that. That's marketing hype. Yeah. And number two, that you could you don't have to appear live and in person whenever I'm doing a training. Yeah. And so we're training the market on how we want them to respond to us. So when I used to do webinars, I would say, look, they're one time only, they're not recorded, and there's no replays. And at first it meant people were like, he's bullshitting, there's no way. And they don't show up and they're like, where's the replay? I'm like, sorry, you paid for this and you don't get a replay because you don't know how to read fucking instructions. Right. Yeah. So, but over time, what started to happen was people started to realize, oh shoot, if Nick's holding a webinar and it's going to be at 8 a.m. on, on that day, I better show up. So same sort of thing with the lead magnet. I want you to imagine if you created this 350 page book and you gave it to someone as a lead magnet and they don't read it, what you're essentially training that person to do is, hey, every time I put out content for you, it's okay if you don't consume it. Don't worry about it. No biggie. And I'm actually conditioning the marketplace to say, when I put out something, it's not important for you to finish it. How on earth are they ever going to finish your funnel? How are they ever going to finish your course? How are they ever going to finish your mentorship program? How are they going to do any of that? So all that to say, like, going back to the whole lead magnet thing, what was most important to me was to recognize the lead magnet had dual functions. One of the functions, of course, generate the lead. The second function, though, is to pre-frame the sale. Yeah. And if we're not pre-framing the next step in the process, then the lead magnet is going to get a bunch of hand claps again, and nobody actually putting money in the little bin and saying, okay, let's do that next thing. So that's when I started thinking about, okay, I hate creating content and I hate creating lead magnets. So you can't force me to sit down and write a webinar or write a 350 page book. Like, it's just not going to happen. I needed a shortcut to be able to produce content. I also needed, when I was looking at an analysis of all the stuff that we put out there, what gets us the most cost-effective lead, number one, but not only cost-effective, what drives those people to take the next step in the process, i.e. buy the thing. And throughout all this investigation and looking at the analytics and seeing what worked, we came up with, again, what we call a perfect lead magnet idea. And again, it's around that acronym SAGE, S-A-G-E, and we'll go over it real quick here for those who may not be familiar with it. But S, and here's probably the most relieving part, S stands for short, right? The beautiful thing about this is we found the most effective lead magnets are 1 to 2 page downloadable PDFs. Not much more, not much less. 1 to 2 pages is all you need. And frankly, if you are a subject matter expert in anything, it should only take you 5 to 10 minutes to come up with something that fills a 1 to 2 page downloadable PDF. Like, totally. You could spit it out real fast, right? So it has to be short. But again, the reason why it has to be short is like, and when I first came up with this, TikTok was not a thing. Snapchat was not a thing. These things didn't even exist. When I came up with this, it was YouTube, and YouTube had like 10-minute shorts. Like, that's what it was. And the reason why we're saying shorts is because, again, Twitter put 180 characters limit on their thing. Everybody put a little bit of a limit on their thing. And the idea, again, ultimately at the end of the day was people don't have time to consume long copy information. Yeah. This is further reinforced by look at our lifestyle today. 15-second reels, shorts on YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok. And like, everything is condensed even more. So whoever's listening to this, take a breath of fresh air and realize that your most valuable piece of content is most likely going to be something that can be spit up in one page. And the best part about it is that one page should probably have a lot of white space around it and not that much text.
Yeah.
Like graphics, white space, information graphics, icons, whatever you need. But S stands for short, the easiest kind of way to spit it out. And again, short means short for the person to consume it, but also short for you to create it on the other hand, right? A, and here's an interesting thing. A stands for applicable or action oriented, however you want to see that. And the number one mistake I saw a lot of people make was they felt like their job was to compete with Google. And that's like, what content can I give out there that I think people will think is valuable? And so they start competing with Google, and they're just starting to put all this content together. And what I think is important for people to realize is the difference between information and insight. Information is a commodity. You can go into Google, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Facebook, you can type in anything you want, how to create Facebook ads, how to do this, how to do that, how to pick a good image, how to do whatever. And you're essentially competing against Google if all you're doing is producing information. Insight, on the other hand, is very interesting. Insight is what to do with specific pieces of information in order to get a desired outcome.
Yeah.
And if you're the person who can provide insight to somebody, now all of a sudden you're considered a category king. You're considered someone who can really help them. You're considered a virtual mentor. You're considered someone who has credibility and authority. So A stands for actionable or goal-oriented. The idea, again, or actionable or applicable. Again, the idea is give someone something that they can take and do something with right now. Not just head theory, but actual practical theory. So that's the A, S-A. G stands for goal-oriented. I think one of the greatest revelations I realized was that anybody who is looking for a how-to answer is on a path going from point A to point Z, right? Whatever that is. I want to learn how to play guitar. I want to be better at Facebook ads. I want to build an agency. I want to build a business, whatever. There's a point A and there's a point Z. And so if our lead magnet is designed in such a way to get that person one step closer to their overall goal. Not all the way there. There's no way a one-page PDF can get them from A to Z. But if we can go from A to B, now we've done some pretty impressive things. And here's what I mean by that, Frankie. Number one, if we help someone get a result, this might be the furthest they've ever gone to get a result, right? So let's say I'm teaching people how to lose weight, for example. We can assume that that person has probably read 1 million books, attended 1 million webinars, taken a ton of supplements, and they're like, man, I just can't lose any weight. And then I come along and I'm like, hey, if you just do A and B, you'll lose this much weight by tomorrow. And let's say they do that and they lose that much weight by tomorrow. They're like, oh my God, I actually got a result. Second thing they're going to say is, how did I get that result? Oh yeah, Nick helped me get that result. So they answer the next question that we always ask is, what's next? Like, that's the best question a prospect can ask us is, thank you for that. What's next? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Third interesting thing that happens when we help someone get one step closer to their goal is there's multiple reasons why people don't take action, but one of those actions is they don't trust themselves. So 3 reasons why people don't transact. 1, they don't trust you or me. They don't trust us.
Yeah.
B, they don't trust themselves.
Which is often the
C,
biggest one, I might add.
Well, that's just it. Because here's the thing. If it's true that people have been trying to get a result for all these years and they haven't gotten that result yet, at some point it affects their own psyche and their own confidence. And then they're thinking, well, shit, I've tried everything. Maybe it's not everybody else out there. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just a failure. Maybe I can't make this work.
Yeah.
But if you provide something that's short, actionable, and goal-oriented, and they get one step closer to their goal, now all of a sudden, not only do they trust you, but they now trust themselves.
Yeah.
They start seeing themselves making initiative and progress, and they're like, okay, I could do this. And they associate that positive dopamine hit to you because they're like, you're the person who helped me get there. So again, we're diving into pretty deep psychology as to why a simple lead magnet is helpful.
But this is huge because I'm going to give an example after of how I used your exact methodology. But let's let you finish here.
Okay, and so that's the SAG, goal oriented, and ease is simply easy. Again, there's this weird belief out there, I believe, and I don't know where it's come from, but the belief is the more complicated you can make something, the more smarter you appear. And I think in today's day and age, that is not the case. Today, the simpler you can curate something, the easier it is for someone to apply that and get a result, the more of a category king that you seem. So we always tell people, make it as easy as possible. I could say, if I was teaching someone how to lose weight, I could say, well, make sure you buy an airplane ticket and fly to the Himalayas. And when you get there, you're going to find this one mountain. You've got to climb all the way up that mountain. And on the top of that mountain, there's going to be a guru there waiting with his arms crossed. And you got to catch him at the right time of the day when the sun is in the right space at the right time. Ask him the right question. He'll give you the magic password to get a knife, to go cut a lemon off a tree, squeeze it a certain way, put it into your juice. And if you squeeze that and drink it at the right time of tomorrow, at the dawn, when all the stars are aligned, you will lose 4 pounds. And they'll be like, you know what, dude, get the hell out of here. There's no way
Right.
I'm going to be able to do any of that. Or you could be like, go to a grocery store, get a lemon, squeeze it into your cold water first thing in the morning. It'll start, activating your metabolism. And in about 30 days time, you're going to start to see the weight come off. If you just consider, like, that's easy to do. So the point is, like, when you're prescribing actions for people to take, make it as easy as possible. And when people understand that, they're going to start to see, oh, I could do this. And again, that's the whole forward momentum part of the lead magnet is, I can do this. I believe in you. I believe in myself. I am making progress. It's easy to do. Frankie, what's next, man? Like, you just tell me what I need to do and I'll say yes to you. And that's kind of the overall objective there of the lead magnet.
Yeah. That sounds like, I know you gave a lot of the strategy behind it, but I wanted to kind of share just like a little personal anecdote on how we use that. So, for a lot of years, we were running ads to the personal injury lawyer space. And this required us, whenever we created a lead magnet, any of you guys know, test a lot of Facebook ads, never mind like the number of variations you got to test for ads. But the lead magnets themselves, like, literally just took us a long time to make, right? So we'd have a webinar we were testing, and then we try a different webinar, and it can sometimes take like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get all your slides and your research and putting everything in. And then, we're writing books and we're doing all these things to try and get people onto our list. And like, with the nicest I could say is, that's a lot of fucking work, and it's slow to test the ads, right? Because you become the bottleneck. And I remember I came across your stuff, and you were talking about, like, in essence, the idea behind Sage is like, let's just engineer a quick little win for them. And so after having all these conversations with these lawyers, what I realized is, by and large, 80% of them got all their business from referrals. They had between 3 and 6 referral sources. And whenever I asked the vast majority of them, like, what did you do to make those referrals happen? The answer is like, nothing, right? Like, I just exist. And so, I get some referrals here and there. And so I started talking to a couple of friends that ran like kind of top injury firms, and I found, like, they did things more proactively. And by and large, there were 3 places they did things. One is they did certain things before somebody came in the office to generate referrals. So like, one of the simple things is somebody would call on the phone and they'd say, how did you hear about us? Who referred you? And then they would say, oh, nobody referred you us. We heard you online. But now we've implanted the idea that referrals are part of how we do business. Then there were things they did during the process of like little extras, little touches, things that resulted in referrals later. And then there were things they did after, like, hey, let me send you a copy of my book. If you know anybody, give them a copy of this book, kind of thing. And so we just made a little 1-page checklist that had things you can do before somebody walks in the office, things you can do during, things they can do after. I think there were like 26 things or something. I got them all from other attorneys. I didn't write a single thing.
Right.
And we had... And to give you the psychology, like, we were running an offer that would help them kind of like get more referrals at the time as part of what we were doing. So the lead magnet is strategically leading into the thing that we're going to be selling later.
Exactly.
And then the flip side of that is, the ads are dog shit easy to write because you're just giving away the 26-point checklist. And now, like, I used to struggle with a blank screen of like trying to be super creative with ads. Do we need an image of a dog holding a briefcase, or should we try something in here and this and all these shenanigans that never fucking work, that just produce mediocre ads? And instead we could just like, hey, we're giving this away. And I think, what I've learned from you more than anything is when you see your ads and your offers as a point of giving, not as a, what do I need to say to get somebody on my email list? Like, the ads almost write themselves, right? Like, we created a 26-point checklist to get you all the referrals, and this is what the top law firms are using in the country. Even if you are a top law firm, I doubt you're doing all 26. Go download it. And they already know referrals work. And again, like, to your point, it's a 1-page PDF that they can use in 10 minutes, but also simultaneously leads into where we're sending them later. So I'd love to talk to them about this deeper idea of give, because that is the real
Sure.
secret. I'm sure you've read The Go Giver, or at least familiar with the methodologies kind of behind it. But I think
Yeah.
many times in the internet marketing space, like people are always looking for psychological triggers, and we talked about this off air a little bit. But one of the things you said is that the secret to showing people you can actually like that you can help them is to actually help them.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a novel idea, right? I mean, but to your point there, the internet is full of people making promises, right? And the promise is, hey, I can help you. Oh, you got a problem? I can help you. You want to lose weight? I can help you. Want to run better ads? I can help you. You want to do, and the contingency on that is, well, if you want me to help you, you've got to pay, or you've got to opt in, or you've got to do this, or you've got to do that. Like there's always a string attached to say, I'm promising you something, but in order for me to actually deliver on that, you've got to jump through all these hoops in order to do that. And so the beautiful thing about, like, part of why we say give is such a simple and novel idea. Like, and again, you nailed it on the head. Like, rather than just promising that you could help somebody, why don't you just help them instead and show them that you can, and then trust that experience for the right person will take the next step with them. And if it doesn't, who cares? Like, it's being unattached to the outcome of you being a value provider in your marketplace. But one of the things that we need to understand is, like, if we're going to stand out in Facebook or on TikTok or whatever other ad platform that you want to play on, it's not all that hard to stand out, because everybody else out there is always taking, right? Now actually times have shifted a little bit. Times like with TikTok and Reels and Facebook and Instagram and all this, like there's the perception that people are giving value. And so for us now, what we really have to get to the bottom line is, and I think this is what just drives fundamentally my business, and doesn't mean that we might give up some short-term revenue for long-term gain. I think so. But at the end of the day is, if you could go into the mindset of, how can I outgive all my competitors? Like, if my only objective in business, if I only got paid by the amount of value that I provide to the marketplace, how would that change my marketing? How would that change my outreach? How would that change how I structure my offers? How would that change how I write my ads? How would that change on what I put out to the marketplace? Because for the most part, most of us as marketers and or business owners are thinking about the transaction. We're transaction driven. And I'm not saying don't be transaction driven. That's how we pay our bills. That's how we take care of our family. That's how we.
But
do
even
all
that,
those
I would
things.
say, like, if you do it right, your stuff is worth 10 times what you're asking for, and it's still a give in a higher level form. Yeah.
It is. And again, to that point, a lot of people have said it different ways. One way to look at it that I think is valuable to consider is, and Frankie, help me understand, the people who are listening to this, are they agency owners?
Yeah,
Are they
largely
marketers?
agency owners. So they're running ads for other people, and some of them are running their own ads as well. And
okay, and they might be, if they're agency owners, are probably looking to get like more clients or whatever, ultimately at the end of the day. So that's perfect. Here's how I like to see value appropriation or value giving. Like, there's many ways to look at it, and everyone can be like, oh, just give. Yeah, that's fine. But in context, especially if you're an agency owner or any sort of service provider who has some sort of an element where you help someone get a certain result, the easiest way to look at this is, consider every piece of information you have as something that you could give away for free. Because your money is not made in the selling of the information. Your money is made in the execution of the information.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's the case, and most people who are going to be selling high ticket here, or a service or an agency or whatever, you're not going to make money by selling a $300 course or some sort of information, when all your competitors might be trying to make money selling off that course. Something you said at the beginning here, which I really appreciated, and I appreciate you saying it, is, our free stuff is better than some other people's paid stuff. Yeah. If you go into that mindset of, like, when you put out something, understand two things. Number one, you don't make money on information. You make money on the implementation of the information. So all the information you have for somebody should be seen as marketing material that you could provide for free into your marketplace. And that would just add on that automatically. Yeah, please.
Because I'm not saying everybody in our space is dealing with local businesses, but probably the largest percentage are. And I always say, like, give away the ideas for free and charge for the implementation, which is the same thing you're saying, and just in different words. And, like, say you do Google reviews for plumbers. Like, if you just show them how to get Google reviews, like 9 out of 10 of those guys are not even going to want to attempt that themselves. They're just going to pay you and say, okay, that makes sense to me. Can you do this for me? And so I see a lot of times people being really tight and going, this is my proprietary system and blah, blah, blah. And actually the best thing you can do
is abundantly
Just
give
give it
away
away.
the ideas, knowing that when it comes to the implementation side, that's where you're going to make all your revenue, because somebody's going to say, I saw what you did. It sounds great, but like, can you just do that for me?
Well, and then I think that's where the scarcity mindset is right now for a lot of us, is like, if I just give away my best stuff, like if I can tell people how to get a Google review, why would they ever pay me to do it?
Yeah.
It's because there's no way the plumber would ever think about spending the time to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So for me as an agency person, like if I teach people how to write great ads and do great ads and all that, you know, what if that takes away from my business? The reality is, if they can take that information and do something with it, they would have never been a client of mine anyways, because they want to do it themselves. Okay, so be it. Do it.
And they
yourself.
turn into fans anyway. There's still other good outcomes. Like, we're talking because I grabbed your free shit and went and did some cool stuff with it.
That's just it, right? So whether or not they become a transactional partner of yours and they buy something of yours, even if they don't, you've built goodwill. They're going to refer you. They like you. They'll, you know, who knows what can come of that. Yeah. But the other side is true. Like, we have to realize that in our day and age, the vast majority of people are lazy as fuck. Like, they are not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And so you have three outcomes. A, they take your information and they don't do anything with it. So you don't lose. They don't, like, they lose, but you don't lose. You've provided goodwill. They take your information and they do something with it. So now you've built great goodwill and they like you and they appreciate you, and they would have never been a client of yours anyway. So who cares? Because they're going to go out and do that. Or they see your information and are like, that's amazing. I ain't ever going to do anything with it. I need you to help me do it. How do we hire you? And then you get a client and you both win. So, like, in either case, all three of those outcomes, there's no downside to being the most valuable giver in your marketplace. And especially if, again, you're not making your money off the actual information itself, you win. Because if someone's deciding, should I go with that person who's going to help get me Google reviews, and that person, and you're the person who says, let me just show you how to do all this if you want to do it on your own. And that person's like, no, you got to hop on a call with me. I'm not going to tell you my secrets. It's not going to work. Who are they going to choose?
Yeah, of course.
Clearly they're going to choose you. Yeah. So it's a win for everybody if you just consider it from that perspective.
I'd love to just hear your thoughts, you know, because I kind of hinted at this, but I found this when we started implementing like your kind of methodology, that once our ads became gives, like, you know, our whole ad writing process got dramatically simpler in what we had to test. Because instead of thinking like, how can I get somebody on my list? How can I get them to opt in? How can I get them to buy my thing? Like, instead I'm going, how can I give this away and put this in as many hands as possible? Yeah. And as a result, like, you know, the offer itself, what you're actually giving away has like real inherent value. Like, you know, I mentioned the one earlier, but if you're a lawyer and your entire business model is based on referrals, and we just gave you 26 ways that you can, you know, one little tweak here or there, you can get more of them and drive more of your business intentionally for that. It's like, it's an easy ad to give away. So I'd love to hear some of your kind of like your process for going into how do you write these great, because you're working with a lot of the, like, for those of you guys who don't know Nicholas, like I won't name drop, but a lot of the A-listers, like the people spending like, you know, big kind of money that are not just running like little $10 a day kind of ads trying to get a few opt-ins, but you know, the challenges of like, how do we scale $100,000 a day kind of ad spend, and you're doing it for those kind of people. I would love to hear a little bit just your methodology when you sit down with a client and you think about like actually putting their stuff into the world, and how you kind of, even just what's your approach for all of that.
Yeah, I love that question. And again, what I love about the question is then again, it goes back to being customer centric, right? Because the question is not like, hey, we have all these assets and all this information. How do we properly structure it in a way where we could just give it out? Like, that's one way to look at it. But if you go customer first, customer centric, and here's the tricky thing about that I notice about a lot of entrepreneurs who are selling stuff online, they start with themselves. It's like, oh, I created this cool little product, whether it's a trinket, a widget, an information piece, an agency, a service, or whatever. I've got this thing. And now they're like, how do I stuff it down the throats of everybody in my marketplace?
That's pretty much the question we both get daily, just so you know. I got a thing. How do I ram it down their throat?
Basically, they may not say it like that, but it's essentially, I've got this thing and how do I sell the hell out of it, right? And it's just fundamentally the wrong question. right? If you start customer centric or client centric, and again, if we were working with the lawyers, for example, I'd be looking, I mean, let's say the lawyers were trying to generate business for themselves or whatever, personal injury lawyer or whatever. The first thing I would ask them is like, if you were to, actually, this is a great exercise. If we start with our client, there's 3 things I like to say about looking at our best clients. So if we were to do a cross section and say, hey, I've got 100 clients, I want to look at my 10 best clients, right? Just the 10 best, the ones that I would love to have hundreds of more of these kind of clients. And we ask 3 questions about them. Question number 1 is, of all the clients that I have here, right, who has been with us the longest, right? Who's kind of just like been around for years. They refer us, they love us, they've just been in our world for a long time. That's going to give us an indication about the style of the type of person that we're going after. A second question we can ask is, who has paid us the most amount of money, right? So if we're, let's say, a personal law firm or whatever it is that we sell, who in our client base has either been with us the longest and or paid us the most amount of money if we have different tiers in which they can engage with us. And sometimes they paid us the most because they've been with us the longest. And the third question we ask is, who's been the least pain in the ass for us as a client, right? Because if you could get a whole ton of people who pay you a ton of money and they've been with you a long time, but if they're a pain in the ass, we don't want any more of them, right? So we're going to ask who's been the least amount of a pain in the ass for us. And then we take those 3 questions and we look at our clients and we say, of all of our clients, can we pinpoint our top 10 or our 80-20 rule, or however you want to look at it, and say, what are the cross-section similarities between them? And there's 2 ways to look at it. It's, what are the common commonalities? So like, let's say we're in the personal lawyer injury firm, and we notice that of all of our best clients, they all have this type of an injury and they all work in this type of industry. Oh, okay. That's insightful to know. Right? Or it could be uncommon commonality. And one story I like to give about this is one of our clients. He was in the teaching trainers how to build their business, like personal trainers, how to build their business. And he came to me and said, Nick, it's crazy. Actually, I did an 80-20 analysis of our customers, and I noticed that the vast majority of them are dog owners. And I'm like, well, no shit, Sherlock. If you go look at all your videos and all the ads that you put out, it's always you and your pit bull beside you everywhere you go. Pit bulls at the gym, pit bulls here, pit bulls there. Of course, you're attracting those people. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But an uncommon commonality amongst his people is like, oh, dog owners. And he said, Nick, should I like not take pictures or not do videos with my dog? I'm like, no, just the opposite. Do more of that, because it seems like you're attracting a certain type of people. So the point here is like, first and foremost, you want to get a cross section of your ideal prospects based on your current clients and say, what is common about them? What is uncommon about them? And what that's going to start to do is give you insight about the stuff and the content that you could start thinking about when you're coming up with ads or lead magnets or whatever content you decide to put out there, is because you're going to, you don't have to guess. It's like, if we all know that they're dog owners who live in a certain part of the city, who carry a certain political affiliation, and they're all in this industry or whatever, you're like, okay, well, then it's very easy for me to come up with a lead magnet that speaks specifically to those people. And it's very easy for, in my marketing, whether they're videos or images or whatever, to craft an environment that further attracts those kinds of people.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this, the long way to say it is, again, customer first. Like, look at your customers, look at your best customers and or clients, see what's true about them. That information is going to inform you about what they need, what they want, the problems that they have, what they're looking for, their common commonalities, their uncommon commonalities. And then you can start baking that into your marketing process. And then it's just so much easier. And I think the key thing here is don't be like, everyone talks about attraction marketing, right? It's like, what do I need to do to attract more people into my business? That's cool. It's done. It's overplayed and it's important. But like, another way to look at this is the opposite. It's rejection marketing. I want to be a hell no to the people who are just not aligned with my values and my ethos. But I want to be a hell yes to the people who are. I don't want in-betweeners. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, Nick's kind of a cool guy and
he's okay.
He's got some good content. Yeah, he's a good 6 out of, like, I don't want that. I want people to be either like, I like him, I'm aligned with his ethos, I want to move forward, or that guy's fucking out of his mind. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no way I align with that. Yeah. No thanks, and move on.
Which, by the way, like, I don't think enough people realize you want to be polarizing. Like, they think they want to be for everybody, and that's pretty much the worst thing you can do, unless you're like Starbucks. and you're trying to
Yeah,
be.
well, sure. Yeah. But again, like you hear a lot of people talk about, oh, you got to be polarizing. And then so people who are non-polarizing try to be polarizing for the sake of being polarizing.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like weird. You're like, well, that's not really you. What are you doing? That's
I don't
strange.
necessarily like
But
mean polarizing, like being just intentionally like, you know, controversial to be.
awkward
I
or
mean,
whatever.
just being,
Yeah.
we're
Exactly.
specifically about someone and something, and then by and large, because of
Yes.
that, you're not about somebody who doesn't fit that, you know.
And being unashamed about that. A good friend of mine, Chris Evans, who's one of the co-founders of Traffic and Funnels, we were talking the other day, and he has this concept that he calls like brand of one. And the idea of this is like, how do you balance the juxtapositioning of big brands and wanting to build your business in a law firm and this or an agency or whatever it is that you do, with the recognition that today, in today's day and age, personal branding has an important role to play. What you notice is most people lean one side to the other. They're all personal brand or they're all like business, and they haven't found that connection of what he called brand of one or the brand of one. But the idea here, and I think the best advice we could give to people who are thinking about like how to be polarizing or how to make a stand is just like, what do you stand for? And don't be be unashamed about it. If you're a dog person, just own it. Like,
Yeah.
I love dogs. Oh, dogs. If you're a cat person, own that. But like, well, what if I offend the non-cat owner people who just know, like, they're not going to want to do business with you anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, whatever your ethos is, if it's political, maybe political. Now, let me just say, I've had some friends go too far. Like during COVID, all of a sudden they're fitness trainers, and then all they were talking about is like anti-masking or whatever. I'm like, dude, that's cool. You have a place you want to, stake your claim in the ground. So be it. Whatever. Don't wear mask. I don't care. But like, make sure it's in line with kind of like, whatever it is that you do in business. But the point is, like, know what you stand for on all fronts, and then just kind of stand strong in that place, whatever your belief is, and know that it's okay if other people don't believe in that same ethos as you, because again, they would have never done business with you, but the people who do line up with that ethos are going to be all in and going to want to play with you anyway. So like, just be comfortable doing that.
Yeah, there's really two levels to what you're talking about. I'm sure there's more, but I see this like, say somebody's helping an online coach. And what you're really describing to me is the 80-20 of just understanding that when you do this long enough, is that not all customers, clients, patients, whatever you call them in your industry, they're not equal, and they can't be. Right. Like it's never right. That way. And a lot of times most marketers in our world are basically making what I call the undefined more as their promise. Like, we'll get you more leads, more sales, more customers, more. And it usually sounds good to you personally. And usually it sounds good to you because you're in a situation where financially more would change your life. But somebody who's like, usually like, if you're going after top tier clients that are established, what they found is doing it is, like you said, they have a real kind of person that's their tribe, and they have people that are kind of lukewarm that have tried them out. And so I'll see this where like an online coach will have a $27 ebook in a $40,000 mastermind, and because the promise is more, we treat those as if they're the same, right? And it's really not. It can't be. Like, you'd have to sell a gazillion $27 ebooks, never mind just the finance. And then like, when you start to like really own what you're about, it's like, is this $27 thing actually like leading people into the $40,000 thing, which is where we want to finish? And so it's having clarity about where you want to finish. And I think those are some great questions. I think you mentioned the pays the most, pays the longest, and is the lowest maintenance. If you start with those questions, what you'll find is inevitably, like, this is a question I actually wrote about in my book because I was struggling with it for like 10 years. And I realized when I look back that all of my terrible clients that like made my life miserable had a certain set of common traits. It doesn't mean everybody who had those traits was a miserable asshole, but by and large, they were usually broke. They were desperate, like they needed to work, and they were often small organizations that had no traction before I showed up. And so they like needed this more than anything itself, like life itself, to work. And the ones I found that were already helping themselves, had traction, were used to spending money on marketing and ads, had a certain size team, and they were already busy themselves. Like, they just left me the fuck alone. Like, I don't even know. They paid me. They were cool. They said thank you. And when you have that realization, like you said, you can become intentional about that, and you can start to say, because I just know from like years of running a marketing agency, if you got like, there are periods like I'm building something up and I got 20 clients and 3 are miserable with me. Those are the ones who occupy all your like
all your mind space. Yeah.
yeah, like when you're going to sleep, you're not thinking like 17 people are happy and love me. You're like, why don't these 3 people like me? What did I do wrong?
Yep.
What did I
Yep.
say? What do I need? What do I need to change? How do I get them results? And you like obsess about the people you shouldn't have even really brought in the first place. But when you have clarity
Yeah.
about that, you can intentionally, write ads and create materials that really like proudly speak to those 17 people. And so those other 3 people just never even get in your ethos, as you put it.
Yeah.
And then what you'll find is the whole thing, scales is better. And the second level I find is that when you focus on bringing your clients to those kind of levels, the 2 levels are, one is you bring yourself your highest value, best, easiest, low maintenance clients, but you also focus on doing that, like for those of you guys who run ads for other people, on doing that for your clients, because you don't want them to work hard and have high maintenance people, and especially like service kind of things, or at least, really they're all kind of service, but even e-commerce and things like that, and SaaS, that's
Sure.
but you start to focus on their highest value people and who they're about. And what happens is you both end up making a lot more money doing less, because you're proudly about something and not. And the other cool thing is I think what you're really talking about is just being unapologetically you. And it doesn't mean like faking it either or anything like that. Like I have videos online where I'm just playing with my kids, and a lot of times I just like fired up the video and started talking while my kids are playing, like it's just part of the deal, right? And a lot of times is we think that like people won't like us if they find out who we find out who we really are. And what you'll find is the more you do this, like people will resonate with you. I have people like actually like I sign off all my emails, may the force be with you. I've had lawyers like write me or sign a $50,000 and up contract with me and say, I did it because you sign your emails, may the force be with you. Like imagine you never put those kind of, just your own bits of your own personality in there, what would happen? So
yes.
I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a great point. Like even the other day, I make it a point that some of our prospects who are looking to work with us, our sales team will reach out to me and say, hey, Nick, we just talked to this person, John. John's got this kind of a business. Just want to send you the details. And what I'll do is I'll go into an app called Bonjoro, which is basically like a video emailing app. And I'll shoot a customized video for that individual. And then 2 days ago, I got that email from one of our sales team and said, hey, this is John. Can you send him in a little email? Because this is what he's going through. He's got a few questions for you. So I shot it, but I was doing it when I was picking up my daughter from school, because I'm like, I've got a minute here. And so I'm shooting the video, and then my daughter like runs into this frame. And again, I'm like, well, this is my life. I'm not hiding any of this. And so I show my daughter in the video, and I'm like, hey, baby, say hi. That's John. She's like, hi, John. And I finish off the video, and then I get a response like 6 hours later or whatever saying, hey, Nick, thanks so much for the video. Great daughter, by the way. I've got one myself. We're going to get started next week. And like, again, to your point, if you never signed off, may the force be with you. If I never like included my daughter, which is my regular everyday life, I'm not hiding that from everybody. If you've got a problem that I pick up my daughter during the workday, then like, screw you. So that's what we're talking about when it's just like, just do you and be okay with it. And it's going to bring the people who are aligned with that into your world. And you may have lost business, Frankie, from people who are like, this guy's trying to sign legal contracts by signing off, may the force be with you. Like, no, thanks. Thank God they didn't, because they would have been a pain in the ass client of yours.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's okay. There's an abundance out there. There's more than enough people who are aligned with your ethos. Just be you and let you attract, more of the people who are going to be aligned with you.
I just want to say one thing on that. I want to be super respectful of your time, because I know you're the man and make stuff happen. But I was actually this is a little funny story, but I was at a mastermind once, and everybody was discussing like who makes the right person for you, and how do you know that for sure? And I said, well, I have my what up motherfucker test. And people are like, the what up motherfucker test. And what we were describing is like, for years, I was like overly fake and formal with all the clients I dealt with, because I just thought you had to be that way. Like, dear Mr. Kusmich, please find the attached blah, blah, blah. And kindest, warmest regards and shit like that everybody says you have to do. And I assumed like that was just true. And I found when I had a really cool client, like, and we like really vibed with each other, I could just be myself. And so when I would call them, I wouldn't say,
can I please speak with, the head of, so I'd go, what up, motherfucker? And they always thought it was funny. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I realized that my coolest clients, like, even if they didn't like talk like that themselves, they always thought it was hilarious. And
Yeah, they didn't have a problem with it.
the people who didn't vibe with me were like, why is he swearing at me on the phone? Right. And so I realized, I'm not saying you should like go out there and tell everybody, like call everyone motherfucker. Like, I'm not saying that's the general rule, but that's me authentically being me.
Yeah.
And so like the people who vibe with me, like think that's kind of funny and would rather be called motherfucker than dear Mr. So-and-so, please find me such and such.
Yeah.
So, just because again, I want to be super respectful of your time. I know you're an A player, make shit happen. For those of us who want to learn more about you, besides your book, I'll put a link to Nicholas's book, which you can find on Amazon. But what else can we grab from you? I know you're a man.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about it is, and I don't know if this is for better or for worse, like I'm the only Nicholas Kusmich on the planet, frankly. So if you know how to spell my name, it's very easy to find me on all social channels and all that. The problem is it's not the easiest name to spell. So if you can figure out how to spell Kusmich, you can find me on all our social channels. Actually, if you go to a new endeavor that I just started about a month ago or so, at the time of this recording, is if you go to nicholaskusmich.co, so .co instead of .com.co. I've got a brand new newsletter out right now called The Bottom Line. Well, every Thursday morning. So the one just went out today, in fact. Every Thursday morning, it's my give to the world. It's my best marketing content, my best understanding, my best ideas, my best strategies around being better at marketing. It's 100% free. We give it out to everybody who wants it. That's probably the best way to connect with me. And then from there, you'll have my email address. You want to connect, you want to talk, you want to jam, you want to see what we're all about and what we can offer. That's probably the next step. So nicholaskusmich.co.co.
Yeah, we'll put a link to
Bottom
that
Line newsletter. Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, like
go from there.
His free shit's better than most people's paid stuff. Like we actually have a ton of people driving webinar traffic using your ad templates, which all of us got for free. Just and like you said, little 1-page PDF that was easy to consume and go do something with. So appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, man. It was great chatting. I love it. If anyone needs any help with anything, we're here. And again, same to you. Thanks for contributing to your community like this.
You got it, brother. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll also like my book on Amazon called Beyond the Agency Box, which you can also find by my name, Frankie Finn, and it's got a lot of awesome reviews. And it really just goes deeper on a lot of the things we're talking about, everything you need to grow and start a lifestyle agency, from the stages you'll go through to getting clients, to how to create winning offers, to high value deliverables, to wowing clients, to building teams, to building systems, and building a boring factory that's like a 7-figure money machine for you. So if you're interested, I put links for you in the video description, as well as it'll be in the pinned top comment below, and make sure to check those out.